But before you can star in the Tour, you must prepare. And that's exactly what Hamilton did 1 year ago, right here. Geneva, Switzerland hosts the start of this year's Tour of Romandie, where Tyler Hamilton comes back to see if he can renew his acquaintance with victory which he got last year. Hello everybody, I'm Paul Sherwen, joined in commentary by Bob Roll of course, and looking down here on the very heart of Geneva, right by the most beautiful lake. It's going to be the host to the individual prologue time trial. First, let's have a quick look at the route that this year's Tour of Romandie takes, obviously starting with the individual prologue around Geneva. Strangely enough, this year the race routes are all on circuits scattered around the Romandie area of Switzerland. Bob, this man, Tyler Hamilton, defending champion, very quiet start to the season.
Pretty quiet, unlike last year when he won so many bike races. He came into Paris-Nice earlier in the year with a little bit of bronchitis brewing. He was able to get over that. He did a great little job in Paris-Nice, but not until the very end of the bike race. Not the results that he started with last year. Some of the other notables, Jörg Jaksch and Ivan Basso from the Team CSC, Sandy Cassar, as well as Stefano Garcelli, who we hope to see later on in the year at the Giro d'Italia.
A lot of names are changing now, thinking forward towards the Giro d'Italia. But Bradley McGee, let's not forget last year, the winner of the opening prologue of the Tour de France by 0.5 of a second from Scotland's David Miller. He has to be the big favourite for the individual prologue this afternoon at 3.4 kilometres. A fairly complicated route, Bob, right round the centre of Geneva.
Look at all those corners. This is only 3.4 kilometres, so the speediest guy accelerating out of the corners will probably get the win today. Here's Alexander Moos, an up-and-coming star of Swiss bike racing. He's a teammate of Tyler Hamilton on the Phonak squad. This is the local team, and they would dearly love to win this race overall when we get to the finish line.
Big pressure on this squad here, Team Phonak, because in fact the man who is riding for Phonak and the leader, Tyler Hamilton, riding in Switzerland for the first time for his Swiss sponsor. Leonardo Pipali, one of the smallest climbers in the world, coming up to the line. He's looking to beat the time of Martin Elmiger, the time set at 4 minutes 31 seconds. Well, he's not going to do that because he's 14 seconds adrift. The big names start at the back end of the main field, and this is a man who I expect to ride very well this year, Alex Zülle. Coming towards the autumn of his career, Bob, and early on in his career, he was one of the greatest individual time trialists.
Interesting to note that he's not even using the aero bars, and he goes down trying to negotiate that corner. Like I said before, a lot of corners out on the course, and you need to get around there as quickly as possible. He has probably lost his chance to win this event.
This man, Olaf Polak, is a very big specialist at the individual prologue time trial. He was a very good track bike rider, and he will be looking now to try and go around 3.4 kilometres as quickly as possible. But I tell you what, Bob, this ride here by Alex Zülle is not going to be the fastest time, but 4 minutes 35. If he hadn't come off, I think Alex Zülle could have been the winner. He's not very happy with that. Let's just look at that crash once again.
Going way too fast into this 180-degree corner. You know, the disc wheels, they don't go around the corners quite as well as a regular wheel, and he goes down pretty hard, back up in good order, only to lose 4 seconds by the finish line. That's a very impressive ride, and it did look like just before then he was going quite well.
Look at this, Alexander Moos. This is how to ride a 3.4 kilometre time trial. You've got to give it everything going around the corners. Nicely prepared, the centre of town here, as we look at the big favourite for the individual prologue here, Bradley McGee, former world pursuit champion and a bronze medalist at the Olympic Games over 4,000 metres. Bob, this is 3.4 kilometres, an ideal distance for him.
Absolutely perfect for him. Being a pursuiter from the track, and look at the power and the acceleration he's putting into it. Here comes Moose with a very quick time now, trying to get past Martin Elminger's time. I think he might not just quite do it, but that's a very good effort.
Very close, 0.47 of a second outside the fastest time so far set by the Swiss rider Martin Elmiger. The Swiss really want to shine on their own terrain here. Now then, outside on the course, we've had some very fast times posted by this man, Olaf Polak. He's going to try and knock Martin Elmiger off the top of the leaderboard. And look at this, Bob. This is a huge beating. He accelerates up to the line right now. He wants to stop the clock before 4:31, and I feel certain he's going to do that. Yes, a brand new time, 4:27.52. That is going to be a difficult time to beat.
almost 4 seconds faster than Elmiger. And there's the provisional time so far on the stage. Polak, Moose in third, Elmiger in second place, and Danny Schneider in fourth.
Well, this man is the fastest man in the world in this distance, over 4 kilometers on the track as he goes around that corner. Bob, just look at that, using all of the road. He's picking himself up to there, 55, 56 kilometers an hour, accelerating as he can see the straightaway in front of him.
Sprinting out of those corners and lifting the tempo immediately up to 56 kilometers an hour, 57 even. That's incredible riding. As we see last year's winner, Tyler Hamilton, out on the course.
Last man to start wearing number 1 as last year's defending champion. Hamilton not really all that comfortable going around these corners. This is not really the sort of time trial to suit Tyler.
Well, Tyler needs a longer, straighter roads, and let's hope he can get around here without crashing. A very dangerous circuit, lots of corners. Look at Bradley McGee's time there with just a few meters to go. Unbelievable.
Oh, he's going to absolutely smash Olaf Polak here. 4:27, the clock stopped for the German. Bradley McGee out of the saddle all over the road. A 3-second beating of Olaf Polak. I actually don't think anybody's going to beat that. And in fact, only one man can. It's going to be Tyler Hamilton. Hamilton in the finishing straight now.
That's a good ride by Tyler. He's just going to go outside of McGee's time. What a ride by the Australian, winner of the Tour de France Prologue last year.
Absolutely superb ride by Tyler Hamilton. It's not going to rock any boats at the top end of the overall classification, but certainly it will keep him in contention to try and win this event for a second time. Bradley McGee, though, no complaints for him. 4 minutes 24 seconds ahead of Olaf Polak by 3 seconds. Martin Elmiger of Phonak in third place. Tyler Hamilton up there in fifth. Some interesting names a little bit further back. We'll take a short break with Bradley McGee on the podium. Welcome back to the Tour of Romandie. Stage 1 out on the open road for the first time for 175 kilometers on a race route based around Yverdon. Rather a complicated route as the riders take a first circuit which goes down as far as Valorbe and then returning through Yverdon and another little circuit before finally coming back down to Yverdon at the end of 110 miles of racing. And if I'm not mistaken, Bob, I remember this used to be the home of a young Andy Hampsten.
Andy Hampsten lived here for many years when he raced in Europe, and he was the first American to win the Tour of Romandie back in 1992. The second, last year, Tyler Hamilton.
Well, Lake Geneva making a magnificent backdrop for this opening stage out on the open road of the Tour of Romandie here. 15 teams made up of 8 riders in the early part of the race. A man who escaped after just 10 kilometers of racing, Yuri Christoph of AG2R, built himself up a maximum advantage of 5 minutes and 10 seconds. But the teams of the sprinters were all over the front end of the main field and pulled this man back into the fold.
18 kilometers of racing to go, and it looks like he's going to be caught. You can see the peloton coming into your screen now, chasing very hard. It seems as if the Phonak team has done a lot of the tempo on the front of the bike race. That's a good indication that their riders, Alexander Moose, Tyler Hamilton, Alex Ula, are all racing strong and are very, very serious about winning this race.
Very nastily, though, the race organisation have put a time bonus sprint point at 9 kilometres to go. That's Matty Wilson on the front, the Australian national champion. The yellow jersey there is Bradley McGee, looking for a few bonus seconds. And Tyler Hamilton, Bob, being very attentive.
Bradley McGee, they're going to go for the sprint now. Tyler Hamilton trying to come around, but no way to match the power and the speed on the flats, especially of Bradley McGee. That is heads-up riding for the race leader to go out. Olaf Polak in second place right now, nowhere near that sprint, so Bradley McGee will put a little bit of padding in his lead.
Brad McGee, what a fantastic bike rider. Former world track champion. Right now we're looking at 2 kilometers to go to the finish, and the whole of the main field is charging here into Yverdon. On the front end of the main field, on the left-hand side there, you can see the Lampre team. They'll be looking after their man Jans Verada. There is Bradley McGee right in the middle in the yellow jersey. A little bit of a challenge coming on the right-hand side there from Vinny Calderola.
Vinny Calderola would like to keep Stefano Garzelli out of trouble and up there in the sprint. Lampre knows that if Verada is near the finish line with a chance to win, they're going to work for him, and they are going flat out to the line. Big train of Lampre riders.
There's a few gaps starting to appear there inside the red kite. 1,000 meters to go, and there's a different team on the front end now trying to take over control. You can also see Team Seiko moving up. Bradley McGee, don't discount him in the charge for the line, you know, because this track rider knows just exactly where to put himself in a sprint to the line.
Good positioning by McGee, wants to stay out of trouble and try to get some more time there. Here's the wind up to the finish there. Very dangerous. A lot of traffic islands here. Quite a sketchy. Here we go around the corner. Sharp left-hand bend, and then a bolt to the finish line.
Marco Zanotti right up there for Vinny Calderola as well. Look at this, a bit of disorganization, looking over the shoulders. Verada right up in the middle of the pack in about 4th position, waiting for the last moment to pounce. McGee riding a superb race there in the yellow jersey, seeing if he can get himself a few more time-second bonuses. Right up there as well, you can see there for Team Seiko, looks like Gerrit Glomser, the Austrian rider.
Gerrit Glomser coming around McGee now, but it's Verada from the Lamprey team digging hard for the line. What a sprint this is.
This is going to be the second win of the year for Jans Verada as he comes up to the line 50 metres to go. The big challenge, though, is coming just on the inside from Zanotti. It was very close there. I would think it went to Jans Verada on the right-hand side, but Zanotti, Bob, was very close indeed.
That was a great sprint. It looked like Verada took his chance here. Here's a replay. Look at him bolting for the line, but the riders now starting to swarm around him.
Starting to swarm around him. He's got the lead at 50 metres to go. Bradley McGee on the right-hand side just sitting up there, but look at this last-minute bolt coming from Marco Zanotti. Right up through the middle as well, you can see Gustav Larsson. What a great performance there. As they come across the line, Luciano Pagliarini was also third.
Alessandro Patacchi, the fastest man, most of the time could only get 5th place on the stage.
Well, this is what the overall classification looks like at the end of stage 1. Bradley McGee extending his advantage over Olaf Polak to 7 seconds, and Tyler Hamilton, with that battle for time bonuses out on the road, moving up into 3rd place. But it's still Bradley McGee at the top. Tomorrow we'll be back with live action from the Giro d'Italia for stage 9 from Policori to Corrovigno, 214 kilometres, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with a re-air in the afternoon at 1 p.m. Stage 2 of the Tour of Romandie, 156 kilometres. Once again, a circuit based around the time of Romand. The riders have moved up here overnight to take part in this rather difficult profile stage with some serious climbs out on the course. But I think probably the most difficult thing for the riders, Bob, is that 1.2 kilometre climb up to the finishing line.
Very difficult stage. Stage number 2, 3rd day in the Tour of Romandie, and it was a very aggressive stage so far. Looking at Peloton all in one long, thin line. Here's a little bit of a breakaway going up the road, CSC and Euskaltel Euskadi up the road.
Inigo Landelus for Euskaltel Euskadi and Manuel Calvente of CSC, the team which has really been the dominant team in the early part of the season. And it's because of the pressure chasing these two riders that many men in the overall classification have been left behind, but not the big names like Tyler Hamilton and, of course, Bradley McGee in the yellow jersey. But it's his team, Phonak, who are doing the majority of the work on the front end of the pack.
That looks like world champion Oscar Comensy doing the pace making here, trying to keep the peloton close to the breakaway. Tom Danielson, first chance to see him in the Fossa Bortolo colors, coming across the line just about in 10th position. Tommy D having a little bit rough start of the season, but he's starting to come around here in the Tour of Romandie.
4 kilometres to go. There are really not very many riders left in the main field, and 6 riders trying to scurry away from the front end of the peloton, but I don't think they're going to go too far, because if we pull back just a little bit, you can see there is the front end of the group, which has really been reduced in numbers now down to around about 25 men.
Tiny little group there, very difficult course, lots of climbs and a lot of aggressive attacking riding. Now we have a very small group coming to the finish line.
I'll tell you what amazes me more than anything else, Bob, in fact, that Bradley McGee has got over these big climbs with everybody here, as we look here at Team Lamprey now trying to keep a very good close eye on the front end of the main field.
Bradley McGee doing a great job to stay in the front of the bike race, defending his leader's jersey. He'd love to keep that for another day. He's climbing so well. He might be a threat for the overall here at the Tour of Romandie.
They're trying to pull this group back into the fold, and just sitting on the back there for Vinny Calderola. It's nice to see that they've got a man in the break that looked like Roberto Sgambaluri. But on the front end of the pack, there's a lot of work being done here by Team Phonak. I'm not sure that Tyler Hamilton can think about seriously coming up with the win this afternoon, but he wants to keep himself at the front end of the overall classification. 3 kilometres to go, and Marco Pinotti is still off the front end of the main field, trying to make it, Bob. 2 in a row for Team Lamprey after Verada's win yesterday.
Tipping it, you can see him right on the tip of the saddle there. That's when you're going flat out, trying to get every inch of the bicycle to work in unison with you. Here's the chasers from behind. They're being chased by the peloton. Steve Zampietti just sitting on there in the Vinny Calderola colors.
Dario Cioni in that group as well. This man really has moved across from the sport of mountain biking to become a very serious man in the overall classification of these bike races. There you can see that's where the finish is going to be, down in the very heart of Romand. And still, on the front, tête de la course, Marco Pinotti, as Bob said, right on the very beak of the saddle there, hoping to survive just that little bit longer, but behind, they're certainly starting to whip up the pace. This is Cioni.
Cioni attacking from the breakaway, trying to close the gap to Pinotti, who is up in the front on the absolute rivet of the saddle, trying to hold off this breakaway to the finish line. That would be a great result with him. 2 kilometers to go in this stage of the Tour of Romandie.
But the rest of that group have already been brought back into the fold. As we look here, Marco Pinotti looking over his shoulder. He hasn't got very much more than 4 or 5 seconds advantage over the charging group, which has actually lost some of the top men in the overall classification because Olaf Polak has not been able to get over the big mountains here this afternoon. There is Cioni just getting onto the wheel there of Marco Pinotti. But Bob, I think they've gone just a little bit too far out. They are dreaming now of the red kite with 1 kilometer to go, and there it is.
1K to go. Bradley McGee still in there, getting himself over these mountains. That's a great ride by the Australian on the French Zuzou team. Pinotti just barely hanging on the front of the peloton, but look at them charging from behind.
It's going to be very difficult for this man right now because we are looking at 1 kilometer uphill to the finish line. We're inside of 800 meters. Dario Cioni may well just make the junction as we look at 400 or 500 meters to go just around this corner.
Just around the corner, and it's Cioni looking back, and you can see the charging peloton right on his shoulder. It seems like if he's given up the ghost right now, he's going to just go back in there, try to finish in the front group, but the lead out coming now hard from all of the riders in the yellow jerseys on the Vini Calderola team.
A little bit of confusion in the outskirts of Romand as we can just see the slight slowing down on the front end of the main field. I can see Gerrit Glomse in there for Team Seiko, boxed up against the barriers, looking for a way to get through to the front.
That is a very tight sprint from all of the heads of state. Some of the time trial specialists have now fallen off, but it's great to see Bradley McGee still in the front of the bike race, hanging tough with this very select group. And there he is in the gray shorts and the yellow jersey on the outside. That looks like Vini Calderola still leading out for their man Stefano Garzelli.
That's Leonardo Pipoli leading them round the corner. Stefano Garzelli up there into second place. Tyler Hamilton looking good for this one in third. A nice position for him, but Leonardo Pipoli is a very good climber. They're into the final straight right now. They're going to open up the gas there. You can see coming up through the middle in the lime green jersey. It's going to be Stefano Garzelli on the right-hand side. There is the man who's going to be a big star in the Tour de France, Ivan Basso. The acceleration, though, is coming from Garzelli right through the middle. He's got a big advantage over everybody else. On the line, it's Stefano Garzelli getting a very good win for him. That'll put him in fine stead, looking forward to the Giro d'Italia. Getting home ahead of Ivan Basso, Gerrit Glomse, the Austrian rider from Team Seiko, and David Echevarria in fourth. Massimiliano Mori right up there, making the top 5.
Beautiful sprint by Garzelli, absolutely no question. Had about 5 bike lengths in advantage when he got to the line. Plenty of time to celebrate.
Well, a bit of a change at the top end of the overall classification. Still Bradley McGee leading, but now by 11 seconds for Ivan Basso. And Tyler Hamilton starting to look dangerous, 11 seconds in arrears. Welcome back to the Tour of Romandie for stage 3, 147 kilometers, and this is the Etapa Rennes, the only point-to-point race this year in the Tour of Romandie from Romand to Morgin. And along the way, 2 first category climbs, the Col de Meuse and the Col de Morgin at the end. A very difficult day.
Well, the Col de Meuse will make an old man out of you before you can get to the finish line. A tough climb, done that many times. I lived in Switzerland myself, and of course up to Morgin is a very, very difficult climb after the village of Monteil just before the last climb begins. Here is former world champion, Swiss rider Oscar Kamenzin from the Phonak squad, and they have come out on this stage attacking.
It is important for this team, the Swiss team, to show their flag here in the Tour of Romandie and set themselves up for what they hope is going to be a very successful season with their first-time participation in the Tour de France. With 14 kilometres to go, there Oscar Kamenzin with 1 minute and 7 seconds advantage over the main field. But Bob, this main field today realises this race is being unfolded in front of their very eyes, and Kamenzin quite happily now, I think, back in the fold.
Well, there's Garzelli in the white jersey of points leader in second place. I believe he's sitting behind Ivan Basso, the Italian, now on the Danish team, Team CSC. The most dominant squad so far in professional cycling, having won a number of stage races so far in the spring this year.
11 kilometres to go, going through the small town of Trois-Torrents, the 3 torrents, and there are 2 men off the front end of the main field. This is Alexander Moos, again a good tactical move there by Team Phonak, joined by Leonardo Pipoli, and these are the 2 chasers. That looks as if that very well could be Ivan Basso trying to get across, and I think that is Alex Zula with him.
Alex Zula on the wheel of Basso, trying to close the juncture down. These two riders here, Moose and Piepoli. Piepoli, a solid climber, spent most of his career on the Spanish Banesto team. Even though he's an Italian, he loves the big mountains.
Bob, there are not very many men left in this group as we look down at 7 kilometers to go. A majestic backdrop here in Switzerland for this magical stage here, the biggest, most difficult stage, when we will see the top end of the overall classification being reduced down to maybe 5 or 6 names. And I've had a hard time there just seeing whether Brad McGee is surviving.
Bradley McGee would do well to stay in that front group at the top of this mountain especially. Piepoli putting in another hard attack there, being chased by Team CSE. Look at Tyler Hamilton, third on the road at the moment, closing that gap for the Phonak team.
Well, this is a bit of trouble at the back here. This looks like one of the riders from Vinny Calderola, Steve Zampieri. He's a big workhorse for this team. He's obviously trying to set something up for his man, Stefano Garzelli. And you can see the pain in his face there as he tries to stay in contact with this group, which is basically the heads of state now as we go into 6 kilometers to go. There's Brad McGee just hanging onto the back of the group. This man, Bob, is amazing me with the way he's actually staying in contact on the climbs for a man who comes from a background of track racing.
Brilliant riding by McGee. This is the Pursuit world champion and prologue winner of the Tour de France last year. And to be able to match the climbers in the hills, that is something very special.
There's Leonardo Piepoli in second position. Alexander Moose, Tyler Hamilton moving up into fourth. Right in there as well, the faster rider is Dario Cioni. Another acceleration by this man, Leonardo Piepoli, immediately covered there by Alexander Moose, who's doing a great job of work for Team Phonak.
He's doing a job for Tyler Hamilton there. Hamilton being brought back to the wheel of Piepoli by this man, Alexander Moose, who goes straight past him. Piepoli trying to close the gap. Piepoli is having a great ride. Now look at Tyler Hamilton gritting his teeth and trying to stay in there, closing the gap with 5 kilometers to go.
Just hanging onto the back of the group there is the yellow jersey, but gaps are starting to appear on the back of this group. I just caught a glimpse of the CSC rider, but this is Bradley McGee riding on the bottom of his handlebars, Bob, on a climb like this. This is quite remarkable.
He is really suffering to stay in there. You don't oftentimes see riders holding on to the drops. That's more for the flats and the downhills, but he is going deep into his reserves to try to stay with these climbers, being led by Piepoli right now.
There's Piepoli in second place, Alexander Moose, Tyler Hamilton in that strange upright position of his, looking quite comfortable. And on the back of the group there, Ivan Basso, who I tip as a man for the future, possibly finishing in the top 5 in the overall classification of the Tour this year.
Basso looking very impressive there, riding very smoothly, doesn't seem to be putting out too much effort at all. Piepoli trying to crack these other riders. 2 Phonak, 2 Saunier Duval. Tyler Hamilton looking fabulous there in third position.
Fabian Jecker on the back there for Switzerland, in fact switching teams, having ridden for the last couple of seasons for the Portuguese team Milanese, and I think this year very happy to be coming up to this Saunier Duval team, a team that will get him into some of the top races around Europe.
Piepoli taking a look back to see the position of Jecker, see what they can do, try to work over the Phonak riders who've come into this race very, very motivated to get something out of it. They want to win overall, and they've been the most aggressive team in the Tour of Romandie so far. It's a Swiss team in the French-speaking part of the country.
Bob, at the moment, with 15 seconds over the chasing group there of Bradley McGee, Tyler Hamilton is dragging himself up into the yellow jersey here, but there's a teammate of his who's gone up the road. Alexander Moose attacked again, and Piepoli's having a hard time getting onto the wheel. Piepoli, by the way, is in pretty good form this season. He finished 3rd overall in the Tour of Aragon last month, so he's obviously looking for a big performance here, and this is the kind of finish that suits him.
Oh, Moose is having a great ride right now. Tyler won't mind having him go up the road. Piepoli looking behind to see where Jecker is. Now Tyler Hamilton will match and just mark Fabian Jecker, the teammate of Piepoli, who's leading this out, but Alexander Moose doing all the work and still having enough energy with 4 kilometers to go to put in an attack himself. Piepoli, the only one going to be able to go with him, and now McGee we see to start opening up some gaps, but he's just 4 kilometers to the finish, and he's still that close to our leaders.
Well, experience will tell Brad McGee just to get into a comfortable rhythm and make sure he doesn't lose too much time on this stage, but the 2 men behind him in the overall classification, Tyler Hamilton's back to the leaders.
Rocketing across to this breakaway with his teammate Moose, going straight past. Piepoli having a little bit of a job to do to stay on the wheel. Alexander Moose there now back onto the wheel of Tyler Hamilton. Hamilton going from captain to domestique now, and it looks like Moose is a designated athlete on the Phonak team for the finale, just 4 Ks from the top.
This is going to be a big battle. In fact, Tyler Hamilton just leading his teammate at the start of the day by 1 second in the overall classification. I'm a bit surprised at this manoeuvring here, and in fact it would appear that Tyler Hamilton is trying to set up Moose for the win because they're a little bit worried about the presence there of the man in the Phonak sandwich, Leonardo Pipoli. This is what they've been looking for, the red kite, 1 kilometre to go. I think Tyler right now is going to sacrifice himself for his teammate.
He is right there on the front. He's been doing that for the last few kilometers of this race. That gives Moose the luxury of being able to sit on Pipoli, save his energy, mark the acceleration of Pipoli. Tyler Hamilton, super domestique on this stage.
Well, let's not forget the time bonuses on the finishing line. If Alexander Moose can get himself the win ahead of his teammate Tyler Hamilton here, then he will be the new leader at the end of this afternoon, because Ivan Basso, who was in front of him in the overall classification, is around about 10 or 15 seconds in arrears, and the overnight leader, Brad McGee, has been left an awful long way behind. Well, this is unbelievable to see Tyler doing this for his teammate.
Incredible ride by Tyler Hamilton. He's a big star of international cycling. Another 500 meters on the front. Pipoli is going to try to use this lead out, but look at Moose just sitting there, just getting ready to pounce. He's up out of the saddle now. He's going to dig for the line. Just a few hundred meters to go.
Straight onto the wheel of Leonardo Pipoli, waiting for the small Italian climber to pick up the pace and start the sprint. He's in an ideal position. I think Pipoli's going much too far out. Hamilton just trying to stay in contention on the back of the group. Oh, this is a nasty corner just with about 250 to go. Pipoli opens up the sprint. Alexander Moose comes up alongside him. There's going to be no challenge at all to Alexander Moose. Perfectly set up there by his own teammate Tyler Hamilton. Looks back to see what the gap is. He's got the win for Phonak, and at the same time, Bob, he's going to get himself the overall lead in the Tour of Romandie.
Wonderful sprint, and what teamwork between Hamilton and Moose. Here come the stragglers coming through. We'll see if they can get enough time on McGee to get the jersey.
Well, coming up here now, this is again Dario Cioni, who's done a great ride to come up to the finishing line, but further up the road, what a superb performance by the old man of Swiss cycling, Alex Zülle. And chasing him to the line there, Dario Cioni, I would think, very happy with his day here in the mountains.
Cioni riding so well, the mountain biker, now a great star on the road.
Trailing in here, the man who led the race early on, Bradley McGee, losing himself a pretty close to 58 seconds there. He would plummet down the overall classification tonight, but Bob, all joy here in the Phonak camp.
Oh, this is such a wonderful victory for Alexander Moose, and that is Zülle celebrating with him for the Phonak team. This is why they came to this race. Very emotional win for the Swiss rider Alexander Moose.
Ahead of Pipoli and Tyler Hamilton moving well up in the overall classification and making a complete domination for Phonak. There in fourth place was Alex Zülle. The overall classification after the third stage of racing, Alexander Moose now leads his teammate Tyler Hamilton by 5 seconds, and Leonardo Pipoli, the ever-consistent Italian climber, up there in third place, 18 seconds in arrears. Dario Cioni with his consistency up into 9th place, and Bradley McGee dropping down the overall classification to 7th. But the joy in the Phonak camp of victory in their home country is seen here on the face of Alexander Moose. A new leader in the overall classification, Team Phonak, but breathing down his neck is his teammate Hamilton. Welcome back to the Tour of Romandie, Stage 4, a short 127-kilometre stage from Sion right the way back to Sion. But I think the most difficult part about this course is the fact that out on the road there are 3 first-category climbs, including the very difficult ascension of Crans-Montana.
Crans-Montana, the ski station up there high in the Romandie Mountains. Look at this profile. It's going to be a very hard race for the riders today.
Well, the first climb of the day at Mayenne de Chamoisson, but the big climb of the day is the Crans-Montana, Bob, 12 kilometers at 8.1%.
32 Ks to go. We see the Saunier Duval team being very aggressive, trying to break the stranglehold that Phonak has on the overall result so far. Bunch of guys right up there in the front. We've seen Pipoli riding very good, and Fabian Jecker, the veteran of the Swiss peloton on the Saunier Duval team, having a great Tour of Romandie so far. Tyler Hamilton tucked in there in 4th position out on the road.
Right on the wheel of his Slovenian national champion teammate Tadej Valjevic, who's riding exceptionally well. My big hero there, Dario Cioni, riding very well, keeping in contact, and the overnight leader there, wearing number 6, Alexander Moose, really today on the defensive, trying to stay in contact with his leader.
Very emotional win for Moose. Looked like he was struggling a little bit there to hold the wheel. Tyler Hamilton matching the acceleration now. Look at Cioni right there in the front, along with Valjevic. Here's Moose. riding in the leader's jersey of the Tour of Romandie. Seems like he's struggling here to maintain the pace. What a hard stage this is. And the Saunier Duval riders, sensing a little bit of weakness there, are now out on the attack. Cioni matching all of these accelerations.
Slopes here of Crans-Montana, peaking out at 1,800 meters. It's almost like the Swiss equivalent of the Alpe d'Huez. 30 kilometers to go, and Alexander Moos must realize if he can just stay in contact with that group in front of him, he could run out the overall leader here of the Tour of Romandie. But he has to stay in contact with the Tête de la Course. The Tête de la Course right now is moving over to the shoulders here of Fabien Jecker on the front, doing an absolutely superb ride. He, I think, is working for his teammate Leonardo Pipoli, who's a little bit further back and just taking up fourth position there. Tyler Hamilton looking better and better, Bob, as the season progresses.
And Tyler Hamilton now is starting to come into form a little bit later than last year. We saw him carry that form through the Tour de France. Even a broken collarbone couldn't stop him from getting fourth and winning a stage in the Tour. Look at Pipoli hanging on the back and Tyler Hamilton matching these accelerations.
It also looked there as if Ivan Basso had lost the back seat of the bus as well, slipping away from this leading group, which on the slopes of the Crans-Montana now is down to just 4 riders left. And Alexander Moos, the overnight leader, seems to be in serious difficulty. We'll take a very short break. Welcome back to the Tour of Romandie, stage 4, the final kilometers now, and a leading group of 5 riders has formed, but the one man missing is the overnight leader, Alexander Moos. In this leading group, we're looking here at Fabien Jecker, who's joined by his teammate, Leonardo Pipoli. 2 riders from Ponac, Tyler Hamilton there in the green jersey, the Slovenian champion, Pavel Tadžedek, and of course, Dario David Cioni there in the blue and white jersey of Fassa Bortolo.
Dario Cioni really coming into his own as a road racer after a career on the mountain bike circuit. Fabien Jecker now starting to do the lead out. This is 2 Phonak riders and 2 Saunier Duval riders with 1 Fassa rider, Dario Cioni there. And Jecker makes a big jump now. Pipoli is going to get on the wheel of Valjavec. Very interesting sprint. Tyler Hamilton should be just tucked onto the back there.
There's Tyler Hamilton. He will be the new leader of this bike race at the end of the day because the second group has been posted at 1 minute and 15 seconds in arrears. But what they're trying to do right now is set themselves up for the victory. This is Fabien Jecker. I think he will try and lead out his teammate Leonardo Pipoli, although it's a rather strange situation because the 5 men we're looking at the front here are not renowned for their sprinting abilities.
Not one sprinter on the flat roads in this breakaway. All of these guys, fabulous climbers. So when it's a situation like this, you never know what's going to happen in the sprint. All of these climbers don't get a chance hardly ever to sprint for the win on a flat road. Valjavec leading it out now. Leonardo Pipoli right on his wheel. And that's Dario Cioni closing the gap. I thought these 2 riders might sprint it out. And there is Jecker, Tyler Hamilton in a perfect position to win this sprint. Fabien Jecker, perhaps the strongest sprinter. There goes Cioni making a jump for it.
Good move by Cioni. This is the man I think has got a chance of outfoxing everybody. He's outnumbered as well because the other riders in this group have all got teammates. Jecker and Pipoli will work together, as will Valjavec and Tyler Hamilton. Cioni looking over his shoulder. He's got a slight gap, but Bob, they're pulling him back. And it's going to go down to a sprint from this 5-man group.
Valjavec just pulling Cioni back. That was a very good move. Didn't know what might happen. Tyler Hamilton perhaps doing the least amount of work, at least in the last few kilometers. Now a little bit of a slowdown here as the riders mark each other. And anything could happen in this situation.
Very difficult from a group like this. These men are all basically very good climbers, not renowned for their accelerations in the final few hundred meters of a race like this. Cioni, after that little burst, has dropped himself back into 4th place. I think the only way he can win is if they have a very long lead out up to the line. This is a superb finishing straight, Bob. Straight as an arrow.
It looks like it is Jecker sitting on the back now, maybe catching his breath a little bit. He's been doing tremendous amounts of work up all the way up the slopes of the last mountain. It's great to see him still in the front of the race. And here comes the first jump from Valjavec. And excuse me, that's that would be
Valjavec on the front. Tyler Hamilton in 2nd position, 3rd position there going to Dario Cioni. He's in an ideal position now. He's got the big gear in. Valjavec is accelerating up the line. But look at this, Tyler Hamilton, a little bit of a mismaneuver there. He tried to get out of the saddle, but he's not the best man in the world at bike handling. The acceleration coming through the middle in the yellow jersey. Fabien Jecker, the Swiss rider, lunges for the line just ahead of Dario Cioni. He gets himself the win for this team, Saunier Duval. But what happened here, Bob, with Tyler?
Tyler looked to be in the perfect position to win. Valjavec doing a great lead out, but it's Fabien Jecker with a little bit better turn of speed, just getting around him in the last 50 meters of this race.
Superb acceleration there by Yecker. It was very close on the line. He got it by around about half a bicycle length, and that would be his first win of the year. A little bit further back, the overnight leader, Alexander Moos, losing himself a minute. He will plummet down the overall classification with this as he comes up to the line with Francisco Mancebo.
Mancebo, the rider from Illes Baleares, now one of the great stage racers in professional cycling today. Solid ride by Moose, maybe a little bit too emotional overnight, not able to rest, not able to recuperate, but of course his team still has the jersey.
A very good win there for Fabian Yecker, just ahead of David Dario Cioni, and Tadej Valjevic getting himself third place. But more importantly, the fourth place finish there of Tyler Hamilton. And I think that explains it all, doesn't it, Bob?
That says it all. The Swiss rider on home soil, Saunier Duval, getting a great win, Fabian Yecker.
And as 12 months ago, Tyler Hamilton now looking very solidly in position at the top end of the overall classification, putting on the yellow jersey and leading up to what is going to be a very important time trial for him on stage 5. Welcome back to OLN's coverage of the 2004 Tour de Romandie for the final day and the final time trial, the big showdown for Tyler Hamilton, who starts the day in the yellow jersey. 20.4 kilometers, Bob. A very testing course, but one I think Tyler will enjoy.
Very tough course. He loved this time trial last year, where he decimated the field to win the Tour of Romandie, starting at the Stade Olympique and finishing back around there again, passing the Olympic Museum in Lausanne.
Big pressure on the shoulders of Tyler Hamilton. He is the overall leader at the start of the day, but would like to go out, I think, with a victory in the individual time trial as well, just to stamp his authority on this bike race as he did 12 months ago.
Not sporting the new aerodynamic helmet that we oftentimes see in the time trials, and because they've changed the rules now, and the time trial helmets, as well as the helmets they wear out on the road, have to conform to all the safety regulations. But he does have a bit of tape there over the vent holes for a little bit of extra aerodynamics. All the riders in the same boat, though. We see Bradley McGee going along the course, this very tough cobbled climb towards the finish.
He's trying to beat the mid-time point here of Ronnie Schultz, who went through this point at 20 minutes and 49 seconds. McGee struggling a bit. He left a lot of energy on the slopes of these mountains around the roads of the Tour of Romandie. But as he comes up to the line, I think he might just stop inside the time of Ronnie Schultz. But, Bob, this is a very difficult climb halfway around the course.
Tough climb, very steep, also cobbles, and on the time trial bikes especially, it makes it very hard. Just ahead of Scholes there, coming across the line, Bradley McGee with a few kilometers to go in the intermediate point, struggling a little bit. I think he left a lot out on the roads of the Tour of Romandie. And look at Tyler Hamilton flying down the road.
Hamilton is an unbelievable individual time trialist, Bob, but the strange thing is he doesn't have the position and the beauty as a time trialist that Lance Armstrong seems to have, but I tell you what, he goes very fast. Now then, this is coming up to the finishing line. This is a remarkable performance. The time to beat set very early on by the Gerolsteiner rider Ronnie Schultz, 27 minutes and 22 seconds. Brad McGee just changing up through the gears, the final acceleration for the line. I think this is going to be a new best time.
Bradley McGee with his final sprint for the line. He's trying to set the fastest time on the day. He's spent a lot of energy out on the roads of the Tour of Romandie, but look at that, a new fastest time so far, 18 seconds ahead.
45.198 kilometers an hour. This man is certainly one of the fastest time trialists around. The winner of the opening prologue here. I think he'd like to take both individual time trials at the Tour of Romandie, but one man out on the course is certainly looking to try and beat him, Tyler Hamilton. All over his machine, all over the road, but posting some very fast intermediary times.
Tyler would love to win this race again like he did last year. He's in a heated battle with Leonardo Piepoli as Ivan Basso comes to the line. Not quite as quick as Bradley McGee, but that's a solid effort by the Italian on the Danish CSC team that have dominated world cycling in the stage races so far this year.
Since the very start of the season with the Tour of the Mediterranean, and then backing that up with Paris-Nice, where this man played an integral part of the win to his teammate Jorg Yats, and Bobby Julich starting off the season very well indeed. Ivan Basso just stopping the clock there inside the time of Stefano Garzelli. There are not many men left out on the course, but this man, Fabian Yecker, is trying to win the time trial as he won the stage yesterday. And look at this crowd. They are turning out to support their Swiss champions.
The Swiss have been riding great so far in the Tour of Romandie, and Phonak has been dominating the race. Tyler Hamilton leading, but Fabian Yecker just 30 seconds behind on GC at the start of the stage. Not a renowned time trialist, as Tyler Hamilton or Bradley McGee, but he is putting in a very solid effort out on the road so far, especially on this cobbled climb outside of the Stade Olympique in Lausanne.
Super motivated by the fact that the crowd, the Swiss crowd, are all behind him, and this is a very difficult individual time trial. In fact, he's slipping away from the top of the leaderboard. May well just come inside the time there of Stefano Garzelli, but it is so very far to the top of this climb of Petit Chêne, which by the way means the little oak tree.
The little oak tree, maybe that's the way Fabian Jecker's legs are feeling right now, solid as a plank of oak wood. He's now back onto the flat sections of the road, but he's really going to have to do something special if he's going to stay ahead of this man and try to take any time at all out of him. Look at Tyler Hamilton closing the gap on the second place rider, Leonardo Piepoli.
Let's not forget, Piepoli started 1 minute ahead of Tyler Hamilton on this individual time trial stage. He is battling with his low profile machine there. Bit of a gamble with this difficult climb in the middle of the course, Bob, to use a machine like that. And he really is having a hard time keeping it in a straight line. But look at the time. It's the time that counts in the prologue, in the individual time trials and out on the course, because there, 26 seconds faster than Bradley McGee is Tyler Hamilton.
That is absolutely flying. Tyler Hamilton coming back on form. Dario Cioni sprinting to the line, and Tyler Hamilton right on the wheel of the man that started in front of him by 1 minute, Leonardo Piepoli. And here we come, Fabian Jecker to the line, still sprinting away. His time is going outside of that of Bradley McGee, but that's a very good effort for the Swiss rider on Saunier Duval.
Good ride by Jecker coming up to the line here. You know, he's going to finish in the top 10 in the individual time trial, and I think that will keep him in second place in the overall classification. Looking for a few more seconds as he charges up to the line. 8th place in the time trial, 37 seconds adrift. But after all, that's probably what he was looking for.
Here's a bit of a sprint that you don't often see before the finish of the time trial. 1 kilometer to go. Tyler has already caught Piepoli. Tyler Hamilton struggling now. He's gone flat out so hard throughout the day. Both of them on their time trial machines. This is something we don't very often see in a bike race.
And I'm sure the judges will be having a very close look at this to make sure that there is no drafting taking place. You're supposed to keep a separation of at least 10 meters away from the rider that you catch or are caught by. And Leonardo Piepoli, having been caught by Tyler Hamilton, feeling much more at home now on the uphill finish here. It's a kilometre up to the finishing line here in the outskirts of Lausanne around the Stade Olympique. And Hamilton now, Bob, bowing his head down in pain.
Incredible battle between Piepoli and Tyler Hamilton. Piepoli now starting to get a little bit of an advantage, but for Tyler Hamilton to have a rider to match in the final closing meters of this bike race, that is a huge advantage. Tyler now back into the drops. These two riders are having a big battle, but Piepoli has already lost 1 minute to Tyler Hamilton, and now it's a sprint to the finish. You never see that in time trials.
Very rarely do you see that. Tyler Hamilton getting into his time trial position now, nodding the top part of his body, looking back at his team car, I think, for confirmation that he is putting in a very fast time. This is the arrivée, the finish of Tyler Hamilton. The time to beat is the time of Bradley McGee, the time of 27:04, and he's going to absolutely knock spots off that as he comes up to the line. He's got the back wheel of Leonardo Piepoli in his sights, but he's all over his machine. It's going to be a brand new best time, and what a way to win the Tour of Romandie.
That is a great show of panache, as they say, being the leader, winning the last stage in a very hard time trial, and catching your Minuteman. Great ride by the American Tyler Hamilton on the Swiss team Phonak.
Look at that speed too, 46 kilometers an hour, 35-second beating of Bradley McGee, who goes down there in second position. Ronnie Schultz, a bit of a surprise to us, in third place. Ivan Basso very consistently in fourth. Stefano Garzelli in fifth place, announcing that he's ready for the upcoming Giro d'Italia. A bit further down, a very good ride by Rubens Bertogliati for 6th place, and Marco Pinotti, one of the aggressive riders of this Tour of Romandie, in 8th. But the day today, Bob, really was all about this man, winning the Tour of Romandie for the 2nd year in succession, Tyler Hamilton.
Tyler Hamilton and the Phonak team came here. They wanted to do one thing, win this race overall. And that's a good ride by Fabian Jecker to be in 2nd place as well. Piepoli 3rd, Tadej Valjevec in 4th place, one of Tyler's teammates on Phonak.
For the erstwhile leader after stage 3, Alexander Moos, finished the race overall in 6th position. But as it was 12 months ago, Tyler Hamilton getting himself the win with incredible help from his team. Last year he was on Team CSC. This year it's a brand new team for Tyler Hamilton, the Swiss team, Team Phonak. And right now he'll be looking forward to getting ready for the Tour de France. Don't forget, cycling on OLN every Sunday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you want to join us on the web, we've got a website, www.olntv.com. And there's always good fun and interesting stories from Bob Roll, myself, Paul Sherwen, and Phil Liggett. I hope you've enjoyed our program here. We'll be back with lots more cycling here on OLN, the cycling channel.